If this is you, you didn't plan this silence. It just happened. One day you stopped explaining, stopped chasing the "are you okay" texts, stopped fixing things that were never really yours to fix. And now it's 3 a.m. Your phone is face down, not because you're strong, but because you're tired. Maybe this hits closer than you expected, because you can still remember the exact moment you pulled back, not dramatically, not with a speech, just less effort. Shorter replies, longer pauses. You told yourself it was self-respect, and maybe it was, but part of you still wonders if it was fear wearing discipline like a mask. You don't talk about that part. You don't talk about how quiet the room feels now, how the silence doesn't feel peaceful, it feels unfinished, like a song that cuts off mid-note. You notice strange things lately, how certain places don't hit the same, how your phone lights up and for half a second your chest tightens, then relaxes when it's not her. And you hate that reaction because you worked hard to detach. You promised yourself you wouldn't flinch anymore. But detachment isn't numbness, it's control, and control still feels everything, it just doesn't show it. You replay moments you pretend don't matter, her tone when you finally stopped reacting, the confusion she tried to hide behind casual words, that one message she sent that didn't ask for you back, but didn't sound like goodbye either. You didn't answer the way you used to, and something shifted. You felt it before she did. Now here's the part you don't say out loud. You didn't detach to hurt her, you detached to survive yourself. Because staying meant shrinking, explaining, waiting to be chosen by someone who already had you. Still, late at night, there's this question you keep pushing away. Is she okay? Not because you want to fix it, not because you want her back, but because a part of you knows what happens to someone when the attention disappears suddenly, when the mirror they leaned on walks away without slamming the door. You imagine her trying to act normal, posting like nothing changed, laughing a little too loud around friends, reading conversations she swore she was done with, and you tell yourself it's none of your business now. But the mind doesn't listen to rules at 3 a.m. There's a difference between moving on and watching the emotional aftermath from a distance you never asked to stand in. You feel guilt, not loud guilt, quiet guilt, the kind that shows up as a sigh instead of tears, the kind that asks, did I do the right thing or just the easier one? You don't want drama, you don't want revenge, you don't even want closure. You just want to understand what happens on the other side of your silence. Because deep down, you know your detachment wasn't invisible. It landed somewhere. It echoed. And maybe the question that keeps you here right now isn't whether she misses you, but something sharper. When you finally step back, did she lose you, or did she lose the version of herself that only existed when you were still there? Look, most guys, they see a woman breaking down after you pull back and they think they need to rush in, fix it, apologize, explain themselves. But that's not how this works. Not really. Think about the last time you stepped back. Not harshly, not cruel. Just stopped giving all your energy. Stopped texting first. Stopped explaining what you felt. Maybe you remember sitting on your couch, the room quiet, your phone just there waiting. And for the first time in a while, you felt that strange mix, relief and guilt. Relief because you weren't bending yourself to fit someone else's expectations. Guilt because you knew it would land somewhere. Here's the thing most men miss when you detach. You're not hurting her to punish her. You're showing her the truth of what she had or didn't have while you were in it. And yes, it stings for her. But it isn't a game. It isn't a test. It's clarity. I remember a buddy of mine, he told me about a girl he'd been seeing. She always wanted more from him. Time, attention, reassurance. One day he just stopped over explaining. Didn't answer every text immediately. Didn't rush to fix her moods. And the next week she broke down in ways he hadn't expected. He panicked at first. Thought he destroyed her. But he was wrong. She wasn't broken because of him. She was realizing how she'd relied on him to prop up her own emotional world. That's a tough one to watch, but it's real. Men confuse emotion with weakness. They think a breakdown means you did something wrong. It doesn't. Women break down when they realize someone they leaned on, someone they invested in, isn't available in the way they thought they were. And you've just created the space for that clarity. Masculine principle: control your energy, not her reaction. You don't manage her feelings. You manage yourself. You don't apologize for showing up as your full, grounded self. You don't shrink to make someone else feel safe. That's not selfish. That's sanity. That's strength. Another one: presence over panic. You've seen this: a girl throws a fit, texts frantic, maybe even shows up at your door. Most guys freak. They jump, they explain, they beg. That's chaos. Calm authority isn't doing more. It's doing less, holding your space, sitting steady, letting her emotions exist without trying to fold them into your comfort. It's like standing under a storm and letting it rain around you without moving. Hard, but necessary. Remember, nobody ever warned you about the quiet things. The way she might replay conversations in the shower. The way she sits alone, phone in hand, remembering the way you laughed or how you didn't laugh at all when things got dramatic. You'll never know it unless you slow down enough to notice. And that's part of the point. You're not supposed to control it. You're supposed to witness it from a distance, steady. Most men think detachment is abandonment. They think silence is cruel. It's not. It's a mirror. It shows her the part of herself that only existed when you were bending over backwards. And when that mirror is gone, there's noise, confusion, pain. That's human, necessary. You might feel guilty. You might feel cold, maybe even a little lonely. That's part of being a man who leads with integrity and not reaction. You're not cold. You're not heartless. You're steady. And if you do this right, with presence, patience, and calm, you let her grow without you losing yourself. That's power most men never get. And here's the last truth. This isn't about you winning or losing. It's about showing up fully, letting the consequences of your absence land naturally, and holding your ground without judgment. You don't have to react. You don't have to explain. You just have to exist as the man. You've chosen to be calm, steady, unmoved by chaos that isn't yours to solve. That's the part guys don't get. They try to manage feelings, to fix, to rescue you. You just detach, not because you're uncaring, but because you're grown, because you understand that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone else is stop trying to be the thing they're counting on to make their world make sense. And yeah, it's messy, and yeah, it's uncomfortable. But when it lands right, it teaches more than any argument, any pleading, any desperate chasing ever could. You're showing her reality, and the rest, that's on her. The room smelled like coffee, but bitter, burned a little at the edges. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, knees pulled tight, phone face down beside her. You could hear the faint hum of the fridge, the tap dripping somewhere in the background, like the apartment itself was waiting. She hadn't moved in an hour, or maybe 10 minutes. Hard to tell when time stretches inside pain. Her hair fell over one eye, the other rimmed red, catching the soft glow from the streetlight slicing through the blinds. She kept reaching for her phone, pulling back, sliding it away again. You know that hesitation, that split second before hope swallows reason. And then she laughed. Not a real laugh, something hollow, a sound you could feel vibrate in your chest. She pressed her palms over her face and whispered something under her breath. Not a word you could catch. Something that sounded like regret, or maybe it was a question she didn't want answered. You remember the text from the last week. Short, careful. Like she was testing the walls you'd built. You didn't respond. Not because you didn't care, because every time you opened your mouth, every time you typed a word, you risked giving in, and you couldn't. Not anymore. She rolled onto her side, knees still tucked, eyes fixed somewhere behind the window. And in that pause, that tiny, trembling pause, you saw it. The realization hitting slow. That moment when someone sees the space you carved for yourself and feels the weight of what they lost. Memories flashed uninvited. The late night laughs in the kitchen, your fingers brushing hers over the coffee mug. The sound of her voice teasing soft, the way it'd curl around your name like smoke. And then the tension you ignored, the arguments you held back, the small betrayals neither of you named. It all pressed down now, in the quiet, unrelenting. She curled tighter, shivering though the heater was on. Or maybe it wasn't the cold, maybe it was everything else, the silence. The absence of your voice, the missing apology she never received. Her chest rose and fell quick, shallow, a storm you couldn't stop even if you wanted to. You wanted to say something. But what? Words would be cheap, they'd be mistakes. She needed this, the storm, the ache. Not you telling her it was okay. Not you trying to fill the emptiness with explanations she'd already imagined 100 times. A tear rolled down her cheek, caught in the pale lamplight. She wiped it away, shaking her head. That movement like trying to erase reality with her own hand. You felt it too, somewhere deep, that sharp echo. Not guilt exactly, not relief. Just recognition that what you'd started couldn't be undone. And maybe for the first time she realized that. She whispered your name again, soft, almost like a question. And then she was silent, just breathing, just waiting. You stayed in the doorway, not stepping in, not leaving. Just there, because stepping in too soon would break the fragile honesty of this moment. The air felt thick. The kind of stillness where every sound is louder than it should be. A chair creaking, her quiet intake of breath, the distant wail of a siren somewhere far off. Every detail sharp, unmissable, like the world had shrunk to this one room and this one feeling. She closed her eyes, and for a second it looked like she might sleep, or collapse, or break open entirely. You didn't move, couldn't, because you knew that what she needed wasn't you moving. It was the emptiness you left behind. The part of her life that now had to exist without the constant pull of you in it. And then she exhaled, long, trembling, and it hit you. This wasn't anger. Not exactly. Not about blame. It was the weight of knowing someone had finally stepped away, finally detached. And that detachment, it was everything she hadn't prepared for. You felt your own chest tighten, a quiet echo of hers. And you realized this is what happens when someone finally sees the space you claimed for yourself. The raw edges of who you are. And sometimes that's more than anyone can handle. The room went still again, but now it wasn't quiet. It was full of loss, full of recognition, full of the things people feel but don't say. You stayed in the doorway, just breathing, watching, waiting for the storm to speak for itself. And you knew she would, in her own time, in her own way, and you wouldn't be the one to rewrite it. Most guys walk into this thinking they've done something wrong. They think she's breaking down because I hurt her. Like every tear, every shaky text, every frustrated message is a reflection of their failure. That's belief number one. I remember a friend of mine. He called me one night, voice low. She hadn't answered his texts all day. She was sending mixed signals. He said, I think I ruined everything. I didn't argue. I just asked him, or did you finally stop bending yourself into someone else's idea of love? Silence. That's the part guys miss. It's not always about you failing. Sometimes it's about her realizing she never had the version of you she thought she did. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself. That's the truth most men don't see. You pulled back because you had to. Because giving endlessly, explaining endlessly, defending endlessly, it kills you quietly. And when she breaks down, it isn't revenge. It's the shock of seeing the space you've claimed for yourself. Belief number two is, if she's hurting, I need to fix it. Most guys think emotional breakdown equals a call to action. Text, apologize, show up, solve, but that's instinct, not wisdom. I remember sitting with a guy who did exactly that. She called crying late. He rushed over, keys in hand, ready to talk, ready to explain. She was curled on the couch, arms tight, tears silent, and the moment he sat down, nothing changed. She needed to feel her own chaos, not someone filling it with words she didn't ask for. You don't lose her, you lose your own presence. That's brutal for a lot of men to hear. But when you stop performing for her, when you stop explaining every thought, every feeling, that's when the truth lands. The breakdown isn't about rejection. It's about clarity, and clarity can hurt more than confusion ever did. Belief number three sneaks in quietly. If I detach, she'll leave me forever. It's tied to fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of losing control. Fear that silence equals abandonment. I've seen it 1,000 times. Men panic, rush in, text too much, apologize too much, chase. And here's the ugly part. She senses the chase. She senses the energy shift. And suddenly, what could have been respect becomes desperation. Attention is cheap. Respect is priceless. You don't earn respect by bending yourself backward. You earn it by showing her who you are when there's no expectation, no demand, no panic. And when you do that, the breakdown happens not because you hurt her, but because the truth finally has room to breathe. Here's the thing men never talk about. You feel guilty. You feel selfish. You wonder if you could have softened it, if you should have stayed more present. But think about the opposite. If you never detached, if you never pulled back, she would have kept leaning. Leaning on a version of you that didn't exist. Leaning on energy you didn't know. That's the quiet sabotage. The thing that eats away. Thinking love is a contract to sacrifice yourself daily. Thinking silence is cruelty. Thinking emotional pain is proof you failed. None of it is true. When you wake up to that, slowly, unevenly, you realize the breakdown isn't punishment. It's awareness. It's her processing the absence of what she thought she had. And maybe, just maybe, that absence teaches more than your presence ever could. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself. You don't lose her. You lose your own presence. Attention is cheap. Respect is priceless. Remember those lines. Let them land. Let them echo in the quiet moments when your mind wants to blame itself. Because detachment isn't cruelty. It's a mirror. And the reflection, it's raw, uncomfortable, and honest for both of you. You don't have to fix her. You don't have to chase. You just have to exist fully in the space you claimed. And when you do, the truth hits. Slow, heavy, real. And it's yours to carry steady, unshaken. This is what he understands. Most men confuse chaos with opportunity. They see a woman breaking down after they pull back and immediately think they have to fix it. Text, call, explain, beg, panic. That's noise. That's desperation disguised as love. The 1% headman doesn't do that. This is how he leads, with presence, not pressure. He notices the way she flinches when his attention shifts, the way her words wobble when she realizes he's no longer bending. And he stays, still, calm. He doesn't move to fill the empty space. He doesn't scramble to rescue. He lets the room feel the weight of his steadiness. The quiet is a tool, not a weapon. He remembers a night he sat on his balcony, hands wrapped around a mug, winter biting at his fingers. She had sent him a long text, angry, hurt, confusing. Most men would have typed back immediately, explaining, apologizing, trying to fix it. He didn't. He let the message sit. Hours passed. He read it again, and then again, and he said nothing, because saying nothing was stronger than any word he could have typed. Presence over panic, strength over noise. This is what he knows. Detachment isn't rejection. It's clarity. It's a space that shows her who she leaned on versus who you really are. He's not cruel. He's not punishing. He's awake. Most men fall asleep inside their own reactions. He stays awake. He feels everything. But he doesn't act out of fear. He acts from steadiness. He notices small things. The way she double checks her phone. The way she laughs a little too loud to cover the tremor in her chest. The way she replays conversations she thought were over. And he doesn't move to stop it. He doesn't comment. He doesn't over-explain. He watches, witnesses. Presence over intrusion. This is how he measures success, not by getting her back, not by winning an argument, not by soothing the storm. He measures it by the distance he holds, by the space he maintains, by the control he keeps over his own energy. He doesn't shrink for comfort. He doesn't chase for validation. He exists fully in his own life, and the effects ripple around him. He remembers a moment in the middle of a quiet Friday night. She called, voice cracking. She wanted to talk, wanted clarity. He could hear the tremor, the raw edges of panic and longing. Most men would have leapt in. He took a breath. Just a long, slow breath. He said nothing. He didn't need to. Presence isn't loud. Presence doesn't rush. Presence stays. This is what he understands. Our emotions aren't contracts. Tears aren't punishment. Silence isn't rejection. They're signals. Real, human, messy. He lets them exist. And in letting them exist, he proves a different kind of strength. Not the strength of control. Not the strength of chasing. But the strength of self-possession. He walks through the chaos, but he's not tangled in it. He feels the pull of her gaze in the stories she posts, in the whispers of old texts, in the moments he's not there. And he doesn't flinch. He doesn't respond. He breathes. He's steady. He's aware. And in that steadiness, he teaches without speaking. He knows one truth most men overlook. Attention is cheap. Respect is priceless. Showing up fully for someone else doesn't mean answering every call or chasing every emotion. Showing up fully means showing up fully for yourself first. He moves through life from that place. Always present, always clear, always grounded. This is what he understands. Chaos isn't an enemy, it's a mirror. And the 1% headman doesn't break. He doesn't bend. He doesn't act from fear or impulse. He chooses patience over panic, strength over noise, centeredness over chasing. Every time. And the ripple of that quiet power hits harder than anything else. Because in the end, the storm around him doesn't define him. His steadiness does. And she sees it whether she wants to or not. And that is how the 1% headman moves through the world. He's leaning against the kitchen counter, mug still warm in his hands. Steam curls up, hits his face. He tastes it bitter, familiar. Just like the last 3 nights. Her texts blink on the screen. Long, messy, desperate. He stares, finger hovers, then drops. Just lets it sit. The apartment hums quietly, fridge, heater, distant siren, nothing loud enough to cover the weight in his chest. A memory snaps in. Him laughing in the car, her hand brushing his, the way she leaned in when the world felt heavy. And then the fights. The endless explanations. The nights he whispered, "I'm here," while she demanded more. And something shifts, not dramatic, not loud, just a quiet recognition. He exhales, really exhales, shoulders drop. He remembers he's not here to fix her, not to bend himself backward for comfort he doesn't owe. A line almost whispered, "I am enough." It hits hard, like a weight he didn't know he'd been carrying lifts. The ache in his chest eases. Clarity seeps in between the nerves, the quiet panic, the old habits. He smiles slow, uneasy, human. And finally, the phone stays face down. The night is his. The space he's claimed, untouchable. The phone stays face down. The room smells like cold coffee and old regrets. Her silence presses against the walls. You feel it too, the weight of every word you didn't say, every step you didn't take. Shadows bend around the corners, stretching long, quiet. Your chest rises, falls. You're steady, not because it's easy, because it's yours. The ache, the space, the truth, all lands where it's meant to. And then you realize she's breaking down, not because you left her, but because you finally didn't break yourself for her. That's the last thing she'll forget.